Kicking off the Star Wars Trilogy reviews, I have a special guest in here today. That was not quite what I was expecting. It's okay, Chewie. It's okay.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
My brother Anakin!
Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my special guest, Chewbacca. I mean, Kingsley.
Kingsley Powell. Thank you,
Yes.
Chris.
Awesome.
I'm so stoked to be here.
I'm so excited to actually have you here. Now, Kingsley goes to church with me. He's been a friend of mine for a great long time. This dude is passionate about Star Wars.
Yeah,
so I
very
figured
much.
I've already done individual reviews of each individual movie, so let's be a little bit different. It'd be cool to take them as trilogies as a whole, review them as a whole, and kind of grade them as the complete story that they tell. And this dude was just perfect to bring in. So today is the prequel trilogy.
Awesome. Prequel trilogy. I'm so excited. All right, we're taking it way back. Okay.
So my grade
right.
for the prequel trilogy is a C-.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm like a C+.
Okay, you're a little bit higher than
I'm
me.
a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I liked parts of episode 2, and I really liked Revenge of the Sith, and I think you're going to agree with me on that one.
Revenge of the Sith, I'm not going to say it's a great movie, but it is a really solid movie. I hadn't watched them in a while, and when I watched episodes 1 and 2, I disliked them more than I remembered. When I watched episode 3, I liked it way more than I remembered. And in fact, some of the plot and stuff that happened in that movie getting in Anakin's head redeemed quite a bit for me.
Interesting. Well, 1, 2, and 3. Starting it off, number 1, that was way back in 1999. We got some exciting things. Pod racing is introduced.
That was okay.
All right? Yeah? You okay?
I didn't care. Give me lightsabers.
Okay. We get introduced to a young Obi-Wan Kenobi who's just a Jedi Knight training with Qui-Gon Jinn himself, right?
Yep.
Liam Neeson. Great casting. We get to see more of the Jedi Council, stuff like that. We get to see Yoda integrated as a younger little green magical guy.
Right. I don't know what his race even is.
Yeah, I don't think they ever say.
Little green elf man.
Nice.
I don't know.
Yeah. We get introduced to double lightsaber, amazing Darth Maul.
For one movie.
And then,
I mean, it's one of the best fights ever. I don't mind the fight ending that way, but since in the animated series and in Solo we see him having the animatronic bottom half, it's like, why not give that to him sooner and let him reappear in episode 2?
Ooh, good idea.
I would like to have kept somebody I was familiar with and watched their sinisterness grow, especially maybe even his anger grow since he lost his bottom half.
Right.
Like, what does that do to a Sith Lord who is taught to be run by their emotions?
That's true.
How much cooler would that have been to have watched that carry on in the live-action films? We spent a lot of time on the Senate. We spent a lot of time on the birth of a galactic empire. Now, there's things that are interesting about it, but I think a lot of people just feel, well, this is lame. This is not what I get when I see Star Wars. But we only touch on concepts like, do you remember Mace Windu in episode 2?
I think it is time we inform the Senate that our ability to use the Force is diminished.
Only the Dark Lord of the Sith knows of our weakness.
So the whole thing about Anakin is he's the prophecy of the one who's supposed to bring balance to the Force.
Right.
So we get lip service to there's no balance to the Force. Wow. We hear them talk about how everything's clouded. Clouded is the dark side. Even Yoda is having trouble seeing the future.
Right.
In episode 2, they sit in a room with Darth Sidious and can't feel the Darthness. Like, the dark side. They can't.
Come on, Jedi.
You think it will really come to war?
The dark side clouds everything.
So,
Come on.
they pay lip service to the idea that they're losing their abilities with the Force, but what they don't do is build the context and the story around that.
Right.
So we don't know what that means, really. We don't dive into, what does it mean, Anakin, to bring balance to the Force?
Right.
And so I feel like they should have maybe touched on the political stuff the way they did the Jedi stuff, and it should have been about the Jedi stuff.
Right. Yeah.
That would have been more interesting.
I agree with Chris. I mean, some more depth to like the Jedi training and the history and stuff like that. We see little glimpses throughout the first 3 movies of like younglings training by Yoda in their classes, and I'm like, wait, no. Don't pan the camera towards whiny Anakin in Attack of the Clones.
It's not fair.
It's unfair.
He's jealous.
I don't like Sam, and you will learn your place, young one.
He's holding me back.
Face. So
it's
angry.
So wasted. Anyway, go on.
Who told that character? Should we dive into that? Who told the character Hayden Christensen when he was cast in Attack of the Clones?
I want to play devil's advocate for
Who
one.
Who told him to be that whiny?
1 second. For 1 second, here's the devil's advocate to his whininess. When you look at the Jedi, and this is why we needed more Jedi stuff than political stuff, because when he's a kid and he's brought before the council in episode 1, Yoda constantly talks about, oh, you're afraid of losing your mother.
Afraid to lose her, I think.
What does that got to do with anything?
Everything. I sense much fear in you.
He has nothing but fear that he speaks over this child, and he just makes this kid feel bad for missing his mom. He makes this kid feel bad for the emotions that he's feeling. He's 9 and he's been taken away from his mom.
And it's told that he's chosen.
It's okay that he feels sad. It's okay that he's nervous. But the idea of the Jedi is this. And I took this quote from Jesus because they got really pharisaical. And something Jesus said, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. That to me is the Jedi. They pay lip service to their force, but their heart is far from it. They become more about the rules and the religion of it. And what that has turned into is all this suppression. You feel afraid? Well, that leads to the dark side. That's evil, that you even feel that.
Do not defy the Council, Master, not again.
I shall do what I must, Obi-Wan.
And Qui-Gon, if you notices this. And that's why he's not angry about not being on the council. He's in touch with the living force and is able to recognize when their prophesied Messiah shows up, and they aren't. And so even Yoda is a hypocrite. And at the very end of this, at the end of episode 1, he says, I have great fear in his training. So even Yoda, preaching against fear, admits that he's fearful.
Grave danger I fear in his training.
And Padme in episode 2 says to Anakin after his mom dies, it's human to be angry. And he said, I'm a Jedi.
I know I'm better than this.
What that shows is he's carrying the burden of that fear. And when you watch him whine in episode 2, it's because he has a crush on Padme, but he doesn't know how to deal with those feelings.
Please don't look at me like that.
He is angry at things like the Sand People taking his mother. He has visions of his mother.
And he reacts as a human.
Yeah, and
He's angry.
And he should be a superhuman, right? And so he's angry, he's fearful, he's feeling guilty, he has all these feelings, and the Jedi won't even teach them about the dark side because they don't even want them to go there. What about know thy enemy? I mean, so here we go. He doesn't know his enemy. He doesn't understand how to deal with his feelings. And the Jedi has gotten so religious, they forgot, look, all things have feelings. Here's how you deal with them. Even when Yoda in episode 3, when he said, let go of the things that you fear to lose, it's good advice. But it sounds cold and it sounds awful because there's no foundation about how to deal with your feelings and how to deal with your emotions. And so it continues to plunge Anakin deeper into his fear of loss. He was afraid of losing his mom and he lost her. He was afraid of losing Padme, and his own fear of losing her became a self-fulfilling prophecy of him losing her.
That's right. It's a bad path, Chris, honestly.
Yes.
And basically the Jedi, the masters, right? The Jedi Council and all that, Yoda, Mace Windu, all these huge, long-time, like big-time Jedi masters, right? They send him on this horrible path. It's like they set him up for success.
Yes.
I mean, if you have the chosen one right in front of you, I mean, look at what Qui-Gon did, right? He cared about him, and he's like, he needs to be trained. He recognized it, and he tried to give him the platform to do it, and Yoda was fearful and all that stuff, right? They kind of told him, suppress all your feelings, don't be human and all that stuff. And so what did you get? You got a suppressed, confused, fearful, non-trusting, questionable, right? Doubting the Jedi religion, doubting everything he's learned, doubting what is this? He's being tempted by the dark side the whole time.
Well, it's funny because the Emperor is there, and the Jedi themselves, who should be in touch with the Force and recognize the dark side, aren't, because they're not in touch with the Force.
Your arrogance blinds you, Master Yoda.
And that's why Anakin is so whiny. That's the only thing I can say as a positive as to why he's whiny, because he doesn't know at all how to handle his emotions or himself, and Obi-Wan doesn't know how to teach him because that type of teaching is even withheld from him, so he doesn't even know how to mentor Anakin.
Right. So how important is knowing your identity, right?
Incredibly.
So important. And I feel like even though the Jedi are amazing and they're the light side of the Force and all that, and they're peacekeepers and they work for the Senate and all that different stuff, there's a lot of cloudiness that they set up in their religion, right?
Yeah.
And it sets people up for failure, including the chosen one, Anakin. Imagine, okay, Chris, for a second. Imagine if Anakin was treated well.
Yes.
If he was spoken into, if his heart was cared for, right? Imagine who Anakin Skywalker would have been. Imagine how amazing he would have been. No doubt that by the time he was a teenager, 16, or 19 as he is in Attack of the Clones, that he would have easily been a Jedi Master.
Exactly.
And could have eradicated the Sith. But because the Jedi kind of messed up in his training, because of the Jedi religion, it just forced him into a way of believing and acting and suppressing feelings and stuff, and didn't allow him to be human, it set him up for this huge destruction, this path of evil, this path of sin. They basically made his choice for him. I would almost say. I wanted to highlight that in The Revenge of the Sith, when I was watching that, great movie. I think it's the best of the three.
It really is.
Most people can agree to that.
Yes.
Right? A lot of action. It's moving faster. We get some great lightsaber dueling there, and a lot of character arcing. It's a climax of almost the entire trilogy as it's rising up to lead us into 4, 5, and 6. One of the things I wanted to highlight was when Anakin is twisted to the dark side and he removes. He's no longer Anakin Skywalker and he becomes Darth Vader, right?
Yes.
When Emperor Palpatine calls him Darth Vader and he rises and he's now Darth Vader, we see a scene of Anakin's eyes turning yellow.
Yes.
They're Sith yellow. And so what I wanted to highlight is the only other time we saw that was from Darth Maul. Is when his eyes are yellow. And I feel like obviously that's implying the Sith, the evilness is basically coming from the inside out.
Yeah.
And I think so much when you meet Jesus, when you find out who he really is, he really does. Jesus changes you from the inside out. See, Jesus relates to our heart first, and he changes you from the inside out. And there's plenty of scriptures in the Bible and teachings from Jesus where he talks about caring for someone's heart.
Yes.
Because he knows how to reach someone first is their heart. Not so much how you act, how you dress, what you look like, who you came from, what your current status is, how much money you have. He doesn't care about any of that. Jesus goes right for your heart. He cares about us, and he came to seek and save those who were lost.
Yep. And since the Jedi weren't going for his heart, the Emperor did.
He could even keep the ones he cared about from dying.
Yes,
The Emperor started to play on all of that stuff and to play on the fears that he was dealing with that he couldn't even be honest with Yoda about. Right. And it's just so fascinating the depth that this stuff can go. And so to watch the Emperor toy with him, to watch the Emperor take that place that the Jedi should have done, it's interesting to see how easily he got in there and twisted Anakin. And then, like you said, when his eyes turn, it's because the change happened from the inside out. Right. Anakin, I don't think, was a power-hungry dude. He wanted power because he was scared.
Yeah.
He lost his mom, and he saw it in a vision, and she was gone.
Right.
And all Yoda said was, learn to already let go of that stuff you fear to lose.
That's it.
Which to me makes sense. Psalm 55:22, cast your burden on the Lord. But that's different when you have a firm foundation. Right. Because if he had a firm foundation, and we can't blame the Jedi for it all. He had a wife who loved him and loved him unconditionally. He could have listened to her, gone to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan could have probably woke up from wherever he was and gone, oh my gosh. And there could have been help in that time of need. Right. So it's not all on the Jedi.
Right.
He had his own personal choices he needed to make.
Right.
But he just had none of that foundation, and the Emperor was able to get in there and take him and twist him from the inside out, getting a hold of his heart, taking that place of a mentor that will listen to his feelings, listen to what he's going through, and twisted him to become Darth Vader.
Right. Yep. And then what happens to Anakin? He loses all of his limbs.
Oh my gosh, poor guy.
He does not have the high ground. Obi-Wan beats him off of the high ground, like the one of the best fights almost in the entire trilogy. Basically, maybe even the entire saga. It's one of the most epic fights.
It really is.
It's an amazing duel. With the music by John Williams is incredible.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. And the lava explosion, there's all kinds of things going on. And you get just anger is coming out of Anakin. He's so angry, but he's still having this dialogue with his master, his brother, right? And Obi-Wan says, things like "I loved you, Anakin. You were my brother," right? Like, stands for good, and then Anakin calls out saying, "No, the Jedi are evil," and it's just this twist and this huge conflict between the two characters.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Well, then you are lost.
Oh yeah, and it's heartbreak, it's tragedy, and I think George Lucas said when asked about in an interview, I wrote this down. What is Star Wars? If you had to say like, what is Star Wars about? What is all of Star Wars? And George Lucas says that Star Wars is the story and the tragedy of Darth Vader, his entire life. And Chris, I would like to say that less of a tragedy, and I think that as we get into the next trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, we get to see the redemption.
Yes.
Right? We get to see
none are too far gone. And
Exactly.
that's such a great message in Star Wars, that none are too far gone. So that was kind of cool to have Luke find that. But what you just mentioned about, Anakin losing just because Obi-Wan had the high ground leads to me a big negative.
You underestimate my power.
We keep being told how powerful Anakin is, that he is the fulfillment, that he is the one who will bring balance to the Force, and consistently we see no power. When we get into this sequel trilogy, Rey is accidentally splitting rocks in The Last Jedi.
She has so much
She
power.
has raw power, and we see nothing with Anakin whatsoever. There has not been one physical thing in any of the movies that ever showed me he was any more powerful than any Jedi. I mean, I could see that he would lose to Count Dooku because he's immature.
We'll take him together. You're going slowly on the left.
Taking him now. No, Anakin, no! No!
I could see that he's whiny and all of that stuff, but what I'm not seeing is this thing that Yoda was afraid of. I'm not seeing this thing that Qui-Gon saw in his blood. I'm not seeing that. We are only told he's powerful. He loses on that high ground. Okay, but isn't he incredibly powerful? Isn't he supposed to kind of be like Rey and Ben Solo with just this raw power living within?
Right.
And what we get is whining, whining, whining. And as much as on the one hand, I kind of justified the whining a little bit, I can't justify Padme falling in love with him when he's an adult.
Please don't look at me like that.
I don't think she liked me watching her.
It makes me feel uncomfortable.
I mean, my gosh.
Girl, what are you doing?
She's a
What was
fierce,
that?
independent leader.
She's a powerful woman, a president, and of the entire country,
Planet
the entire
or something.
planet.
Yeah, queen.
Right. Queen. Right.
Now she's in the Senate in episode 2. I mean, she is strong, and here,
Right.
Obi-Wan is jealous of me. He's jealous, and he's holding me. Oh my gosh, he's holding me back. And he just never grows up. He cries about it when he first meets her, and then at the very end of episode 2, Obi-Wan's like, we have to take Dooku together. He's powerful. No, I'm more powerful. Oh, my arm. And it's like, you deserve that, you snot-nosed child.
He's jealous. He's holding me back.
A lot of whining.
Even in episode 3, I don't see how powerful he is.
We talked about how he probably got to the whining, right? What set him up for the whining and stuff like that. But yeah, he's a pretty whiny little crybaby. And the girl that he has a love interest for loves him back unconditionally. How? Like you said,
that's great. That's wonderful. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm like, how? Right. I can't even... The chemistry isn't even there for me to understand how she fell for him.
It's crazy. And for how powerful and just wise that Padme is. She's a very strong female character in Star Wars, and she's regarded as being a wise queen and whatnot. For all this wisdom that Queen Amidala has, she just blindly loves Anakin to the point of where she is pregnant with his twins, right, with his kids. And she goes to a planet where Anakin is, where he has become evil and stuff like that, and she ends up getting choked out by an angry, whiny, Sith-filled, nasty guy.
Yes.
And she still, loves him to the point of when she gives birth, she dies of a broken heart. Really? Dying from a broken heart? Are you kidding me? You just had 2 babies. I'm sorry. That's just not, a mother will endure. I'm sorry. That was a little bit she was so heartbroken that, I have these 2 amazing babies and stuff like that. Oh, I'm so heartbroken. I'm going to die? Really?
What if Darth Plagueis had taught Palpatine how to bring life back, and so Vader was dying and would have died, and Darth Sidious was drawing life out of his former wife and drawing it into Vader.
Very true.
And that's how Vader survived.
It's true.
I was watching a YouTube video. I did not come up with that on my own, because the problem, again, with this trilogy is that stuff that is most interesting You have to just extrapolate from it without any actual story points and digging into it.
Yeah.
You get most of that in episode 3, getting into Anakin's head, seeing what he's afraid of. And to me, that was some very powerful imagery. There's places where the Jedi's at fault because they got so religious they weren't even in touch with the Force. And Anakin is hearing good words preached from their mouth and seeing horrible things in their actions, so he's confused. But even he himself had a wife that loved him unconditionally.
Right.
She could have been that solid foundation because her love was unwavering.
Yeah, absolutely.
All he had to do was listen to her at the very least, and he could have been there when those kids were born, and she would have lived.
Right. And when Anakin is turned to the dark side, he is given the task to go and basically kill all these younglings.
Oh gosh, yes.
That's
so
a
sad.
horrible scene. There's a funny thing, Chris, you should put up the photo of the theory that people have about the little boy that when Anakin first opens the door to ignite his lightsaber to basically hack and slash and kill all these younglings, little tiny Jedi kids, right? He goes, Master Skywalker, what are we to do, right? And then he goes to draw the lightsaber. There's a theory that if you take the face of that little boy and then you start to move him in 3 photos, you can see the face of the little boy, halfway face of the little boy with a little bit of Snoke, and then full Snoke, and he literally looks the exact same. Whoa. As J.J. Abrams, the director of Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker, said, he goes, I have to connect 9 movies.
Yes,
that
he
is
does.
a hard job. And
I don't envy that, but I think he can do it. I like him.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's a good director.
He's the guy for the seat, and I'm just excited to see it all wrapped up with a bow, hopefully in Episode 9, as we get the ending of the Skywalker saga of everything and whatnot. But yeah, those prequels, George Lucas, I feel like they could have done a better job, but yeah, they tried.
The heart of it's there.
It's there.
And kind of the structure's there, but I don't feel like the execution was quite there.
Yeah, exactly. If we would have replaced all of the slow Senate meetings and boring talk and slow Senate, if we would have replaced that with some more action.
And more Jedi. Philosophy and what's going on and why the balance isn't there anymore, that would have been cool.
Show fans what they want to see.
Yes!
Like, come on, lightsaber duels. Like, show a lot of those. Like, I want to see basically the trailer. I want to see that movie, right?
Yeah.
When I see the trailer of episode 1, 2, and 3, I'm like, yes, I want to see that movie. And then what I get is not so much that exciting trailer. You have to wait for like 45 minutes of talk. There is a downtime in Phantom Menace where it is like so long before you get a fight or any kind of action, and it's like this relationship between
and it depends on the downtime, right? If it was downtime getting into the Jedi not being able to connect with the Force, why is there no balance? Is this kid really the fulfillment of the prophecy? The fear of what this means if he goes one way or the other, that would have been more compelling if we were going to go through a long time of no action, but it was Senate stuff.
Right.
And it was
boring. Man. Darth Vader as a teenager, I thought he would have.
I thought kind of like Smallville, but evil.
Exactly. Right.
So how's this going to play into the Rise of Skywalker? What is your theory as to how, like, the Emperor returning and all of that stuff?
Man, we got to see a glimpse in the trailer of Rise of Skywalker.
Long have I waited.
Emperor Palpatine, he's back. Episode 9. Many movies later, and all of a sudden he's back.
He's back!
Right? I think that is probably J.J. Abrams or the script writers of the last trilogy. They're trying to wrap the entire thing up. And I think if you're going to wrap everything up, you might have to bring back some original evil villains. I mean, in the Last Jedi, Snoke was killed off pretty fast.
Yep.
We'll get into that. We'll talk about that in the next video. But the main villain, if you look at like the worst villain of all 9 movies, it's going to be Emperor Palpatine.
Well, it is. He created a civil war and played both sides against each other. That's how smart the dude was.
Right. Exactly. Does he need to be brought back, Chris?
I wasn't thinking he needed to be. The fact that he is kind of impresses me.
Right.
And it leads me to this theory. Darth Plagueis.
Darth Plagueis.
So I'm positive Darth Sidious was an apprentice of Darth Plagueis.
Yes, I agree.
I think Darth Vader was conceived because of Palpatine using what he learned from Darth Plagueis to manipulate the midichlorians, and I think he created Vader.
He created him.
I think that's what happened.
That's good.
I'm curious because in Episode 8, what does Rey see when she says, "Show me my parents"? She sees herself. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't have parents. Maybe the junk traders that dropped her off were just people that adopted her and sold her for drinking money. Yeah. And maybe, though, her origins are the exact same thing. Maybe Darth Sidious used what he learned from Darth Plagueis and created her through the midichlorians.
Right.
So I don't know. That's kind of my theory. And what brings him back? I don't know. I'm excited. I'm thinking it's a Force ghost. I think it's a dark side Force ghost.
It could also be a dream.
It could be a dream.
You know how in the last couple movies the trailers have just shown a dream of one of the characters?
Yes.
And it's like you think that's the actual movie, but it's a dream, you know?
Yep.
Like that could be.
So like her with the double lightsaber is probably a dream.
Could be a total dream of her envisioning something. Like just like when Luke, he has a Force vision of fighting Darth Vader. So he cuts off the head of Darth Vader, and when he sees through the helmet, it's himself, right? And you get this like crazy imagery and vision and whatnot, and so it really changes him and stuff like that. So I think that we're probably going to end up seeing that, even more of that in this last wrap-up movie.
So more of those type of Force dreams and stuff.
Force dreams.
Yes.
I don't think they're actually real. There's so many theories about like Dark Rey, and she's going to turn evil and all that stuff.
Interesting.
I don't think she's gonna like actually be evil. Oof.
I don't know, but how cool would it be if she turned evil because she is created by the Emperor and she joins that side while Ben Solo redeems himself and comes back over?
Ooh,
that would be interesting.
That could be.
That would be interesting.
We will see.
So, for the whole prequel trilogy, I give it a C-. I feel like there was a lot of interesting stuff there, and it wasn't touched on, and I'd give it a far lower grade, but Episode 3 did a better job getting in Anakin's head, and did a better job bringing that whole story arc to a close, so it kind of redeems that for me. Plus, that awesome Darth Maul fight was incredible. How about you?
Yeah, I want to say C+ for the prequels. 1, 2, and 3. 3 was obviously a really good movie, a lot of high action, and I mean, I thought it was cool how they ended Revenge of the Sith with you get to see Anakin in the Darth Vader costume, how he even got into all that armor and all that stuff, the helmet placed on him.
That was pretty cool.
You get to see all that, and now he's just a chess piece, an active chess piece for the Emperor, and then you can kind of see how that sets up the next movie.
Yes.
Right? But if you watch it chronologically, the correct way, some people are going to disagree with this, but you should go 1, 2, 3, then you should go Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yep, followed by Rogue One.
Rogue One, and then A New Hope, Episode 4. That is how it goes. And if you watch it like that, I feel like you're going to get a whole
That's what I did, and it gave me a good picture of
good picture.
kind of the whole conflict. It's pretty cool.
So if parents out there, if you're going to show your kids, or if you want to, if you've never really been a big fan of Star Wars and you're getting ready for Episode 9, the last one, I highly suggest watch them in that order. Get the whole picture of the entire stories, because I just feel like that'll really make the last one really sweet, and you'll be knowledgeable. But J.J. Abrams himself said that you don't have to have watched the other movies to really fully understand, that you should be able to have a standalone movie.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to your conclusion, J.J. Abrams. Well, this has been our review of the prequel trilogy, so next week we're going to be posting our review of the original trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6. We'll be diving into those and reviewing it as one solid story like we did here. So that's coming next week, and then we will close this all off with the 2 newest movies leading into Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
Awesome.
I can't wait to get into that and who you think the Rising Skywalker is going to be. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, what did you think of the prequel trilogy? Do you like our grades? Would you go higher? Would you go lower? Let's talk about that in the comments. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button, become a Durbanian, and hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified the next time we drop a movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, or anything else we do here. I'm Durbin.
I'm Kingsley.
Thanks for checking out Durbania.